Alright everyone, it's time to do an actual redo of the main first video of the day. First and foremost, keep in mind there will be a pinned comment down below if you're watching on YouTube with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. I make 4 videos a day, only 2 go on YouTube. At this point, that's algorithmically necessary. Link in the description, you can peruse this yourself. This morning I reported on, actually somewhat inaccurately, because I was saying that the legacy media had to retract itself in regards to a tale about the FBI warning Giuliani about being investigated. Somehow I had gotten the investigation mixed up with a different tale, which is the actual story, and 10 times more damning, by the way, with regards to the FBI supposedly, and this didn't happen, it's been retracted, and I'll get into that, supposedly being warned in 2019 by the FBI with regards to Russian disinfo campaigns against Biden, and warning him not to get involved, and that he was spreading Russian state propaganda, basically. It turns out that never actually happened. This was spread, by the way, and I didn't know this either, by the Lincoln Project initially to the MSM. This was one of their big hit sort of things. You think it was the Matt Gaetz scandal that nobody is looking into for a fucking good reason? No, they were expecting to nail Giuliani. He got raided in a persecutorial manner. He's being persecuted by the Biden admin for the rebuttal of the Mueller probe, number 1, and for Hunter Biden's laptop, number 2. That much is clear. When he got raided, he offered the FBI agents there, hey, here's Hunter Biden's hard drive. You want to look at this? No, we refuse to take it, they said. Very, very telling, by the way. It's a hack job. Anyway, again, link in the description. What's happened here is a form of propaganda, and we're seeing it commonly. We've seen it for years, and by the way, it's done by right-wing media too. You tell a lie, and then you wait, and you retract it on page B while the lie was front page news, and what happens is an interesting phenomenon. If you tell your audience something, let's say that 100 people are watching NBC, which has retracted its story. By the way, MSNBC has not yet done so. New York Times, NBC, and WAPO all did. MSNBC still refuses, and none of them issued a video retraction. None of them issued an on-air, I think, retraction. It was all like on their websites, again, on like page B. You have to dig for it to find it. You tell them something, and you tell 100 people. So let's say they all believe it. We'll simplify here. The NBC audience are lemmings, and 100 people is probably about what viewership they'd get on an article anyway, because they're a dying news organization. So now 100 people believe that Giuliani was warned by the FBI about the non-existent Russian disinfo campaign. You know, the big lie of the Democrats is that Russia. We've heard it for years and years. It's tired and nobody even cares anymore. So now 100 people believe it. Now let's say they issue the retraction on page B a couple days later. Maybe 10 of those people read it, and so they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess that was not true. They probably don't care. So now 90 people believe it. Now, the only people that are going to report further are in other, like, right-wing echo chambers, like MSNBC and CNN and all these groups. They're not going to talk at length about their own retraction and report on their own, mistake. No, their competitors will. So Fox, Breitbart, Drudge, well, it used to be Drudge, The Blaze and stuff like that. Independent content creators too, regardless of who made the mistake, by the way, I like to think. Sometimes true, sometimes not. Depends on the person. So now, let's say 2 or 3 people now realize there was a mistake. So we'll simplify further. It's 5 people. So only 85 people believe the lie. The reason why it will have such limited impact is because of the echo chamber nature of these groups. That is, the person that watches and takes seriously CNN, if they watch Fox at all, they're not taking it seriously. It's just filler for them. Vice versa, the Fox viewer probably assumes that CNN is the Clinton News Network, and even if Fox issues a retraction on a story, and CNN laughs about it and says, well, look how wrong Fox was, they're not going to take it seriously. Unless they were one of the people that read Fox's own retraction that will disappear after 24 hours anyway because of the structure of news as it is, especially if it's on air mentioned fucking once or twice, they're not going to change their mind. It's coming from what they perceive of as a non-authoritative source, which is CNN. Well, they don't like CNN. Then you have the tertiary impact, and this is the democratized side of the web, which is that people like me who go to dust-up sites, shit-posting sites like Twitter or Reddit or 4chan or something, will attempt to convince people as well, if they care, and usually in an insulting manner, by the way, attempt to convince people they're wrong. So I'll see the NBC report, the initial tweet, on Twitter. And I'll go there and I'll chuckle at a couple people and say, you do realize there's somebody who will inevitably be agreeing with NBC and saying, oh, well, Giuliani's so crooked. He knew he was spreading Russian propaganda. And I'll say, well, no, he wasn't. And they'll say, yes, he was. NBC said so. And I'll say, no, NBC retracted. Here's the link. How many of those people do you think will actually look at the link? And by then it's old news. It's no longer interesting to them anyway. Only the most fervent NBC partisan acolytes are even going to respond to the post. So let's say at maximum, if there's a huge reach around by people outside of the echo chamber, maybe 5 or 6 more people find out the horrible truth that they were lied to by NBC. So the end result is that out of those initial 100 people that NBC convinced of something that wasn't true, 75, 80 of them still do. And that might be being generous as far as the number of people whose cognitive dissonance level is low enough to actually accept that they believe something wrong, because people don't like being wrong. And the MSM does this all the time. Remember the Covington kids? I've encountered enormous numbers of people who still believe that they're a bunch of virulent, bitter racists who approach Native American marchers and in order to mock them at Indigenous Peoples Day. Well, that never happened. You can prove it to them. I've got video footage. I've got Bloomberg settling out of court with Sandman. I've got a million things I can show them, but they're not going to listen. And the final reason that they won't listen is because the people that are actually passionate enough, and usually shitposty enough, to bother confronting them on how they're wrong, well, you're an extremist. Oh yeah, you're just a Trumpanzee. You believe everything Trump says, and yeah, maybe you're a Russian bot. Maybe you're a Nazi or something like that. I hear that all the time. When you try to correct people who are wrong, generally they don't like that fact because they think you're trying to insult them. It's a flaw in the human character, by the way, in most people. You remember the Very Fine People hoax, the idea that Donald Trump was praising neo-Nazis that were marching in Charlottesville. A wall of propaganda by the MSM came out and clobbered him, and a bunch of people believed it. And they never even bothered to retract then, despite the fact that they were willfully taking comments out of context, and they knew it. And when this was pointed out by people from other networks that back Trump, or by independent people who listened to the entire speech, it was like talking to a brick wall. You might as well talk into the fucking void than talk to lemmings, because they will never come around to the fact that they're actually lemmings, because they don't want to admit that they're lemmings. They get cognitive dissonance. They think they're 10 times smarter than they really are. They're wise. They're with it. They know what's going on in the world. Why do you think I'm making this video? Because I value the truth. That's sort of what the goal of my current events analysis actually is. The political analysis is there to be accurate. It's not there to mollycoddle people with certain beliefs and devolve into an echo chamber. It can make it hard to actually grow your brand at times because a lot of people want to be in an echo chamber. You should see all the flack that I get on the BitChute comment section, which is still uncensored, unlike YouTube's stupid comment section. By the way, that's off half the time for half the videos on MSM content. The only reason I even subscribe to them is to joke about their videos. I chronically do that several times a day. I jump onto like MSNBC's page in order to see their new videos so that I can point out how wrong they are. And it's about 90% of the time. If there's no comment from me there, it's probably because I either agree with the video or the subject has nothing to do with my interests. Mostly the latter. Yeah, going to Vox. Yeah, that really trips my trigger. It really gets me going. So yeah, Giuliani was indeed not warned by the FBI about Russian disinfo campaigns, probably because there was none. There was no disinfo campaign in the 2020 election by Russia. It never happened. There's no evidence of it. What are you going to do? Have another fucking Mueller probe, I suppose, and just run it into the ground? Spend another $10 million with a bunch of rubber stamping at the FISA court. There are still people to this day that believe the initial reports of the Steele dossier, despite how debunked that is. Even the lamestream media doesn't even bother holding that up anymore as a standard of truth. Even they don't push it anymore. That there are still people that believe that Donald Trump is an irascible goofball who had Russian hookers piss on the Obama's bed as a sort of bizarre, underdeveloped humor. There are still people that believe that that happened. Pretty sure that particular insinuation initially was in part a 4chan joke, trying to spread the idea to get him to latch on. You saw that Jeopardy dude holding up 3 fingers last week after winning his third Jeopardy, which makes sense. And people were trying to call him a white supremacist, get him in the show canceled for platforming white supremacy or something. You remember the OK symbol? You remember when milk was racist? Remember when Hawaiian shirts were part of the Boogaloo thing? I can remember all of these things. I can remember when Pepe was a racist symbol as well. It's funny because people actually believe these things. They're sort of trained to believe lies, it seems. But again, the lamestream networks other than MSNBC, and they probably never will at this point, they're just ignoring the issue, have retracted. Lincoln Project won't retract, probably because they were the anonymous source to begin with. So many times I have a feeling that in cases like this, what you're actually seeing is an anonymous source is the initial reporting network or group. That is, oh, Salon can break this report. An anonymous source within the White House tells us that Donald Trump scored 80 on his IQ test. We know that it's true because it was from the Salon employee in the gas station phone booth, a couple of blocks away from our headquarters. I have a feeling that happens all the fucking time. That's about all. Peace out.